Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and we only have a handful of questions this week, so it's going to be a shorter mailbag, but they are some good ones. So let's dive right into them. First one comes from Mass Tech, who wants to know, what have I heard about the following young defensive linemen: Eddie Smith, Charles Anderson, Kason Long, and Keyshawn Williams? Well, Eddie Smith and Charles, first off, let's start with Eddie Smith, a huge human being, 6'5", 275, 280, but can run, can move, very good athlete. He's in the 3 deep, but they really like him. He dominated the scout team last year in practice. Is just a monster coming off the edge. Obviously, bringing in Romello Height and David Bailey changed the depth chart there at outside linebacker / defensive end, up on the defensive line. Charles Anderson, same kind of thing, same class as Eddie Smith, another big dude coming off the edge. Um, Really good end. What I've heard about them is just they've been really good. They're developing, and they really like their future. Who knows with the transfer portal and all that, what this team's going to look like next year, but they really like, the coaches do, Eddie Smith and Charles Anderson. What I've seen from them in practice, both in spring and fall camp, it, good work. Real strong at the point of attack. Both those guys with nice size, better bend and pass rush than I was expecting it for dudes that size. Um, you know, they kind of remind me of the Tyree Wilson in terms of prototype. Are they going to be as good as Tyree? I don't know. They're younger than when even Tyree started to develop when he was older after transferring to Tech. But they definitely like those two guys. Everything I've heard about those two guys has been good. Next two guys, Kason Long and Keyshawn Williams. Keyshawn Williams, redshirt freshman, young dude, good size, more of a defensive tackle at 325 pounds, I believe, out of Houston to Caney. I haven't seen a ton or heard a lot about him. Again, a lot of dudes brought in ahead of the depth chart of Keyshawn, but I like him. Kason Long is an interesting case to follow, career to follow. He was, I believe, out of Shallow uh, recruited to play offensive line. He was like, that was the expectation coming in. Was quickly moved to outside linebacker. Now it's been moved to the defensive line. I was actually watching him just Thursday at in fall camp, and I mean, he looks the part. Like, strength and size shouldn't be a problem. He's continuing to add weight, bulk up. But in terms of strength at the point of attack, I think he's been good. He's still at least a year or two away. I don't think either one of those guys will play this upcoming season very much. But bright futures. The first two guys, Eddie Smith and Charles Anderson, Tech wants to keep them. Tech wants to play them sooner rather than later. You might see them contribute some this year, but probably next year. For honestly, all four of those guys is when they first start expecting any kind of real impact on Saturdays. Next question comes from Nas Raider. It says, where do you see the next major change / enhancement to the game of football, coaching, play on the field, broadcast, etc., related to the adoption of AI? And yeah, AI, is kind of it's kind of, hopefully not literally taking over the world, but is, one of the next big things. There's a lot of things you could do with it in terms of college football. I think we already use it in certain aspects as fans when we show up to the stadium, in terms of um, how things are organized, how you pay for things, all kinds of stuff like that. But in terms of coaching, to me, and this is the number one, there's actually two things that I like, and for the coaches, how they could use it. One is in game planning. One of the main reasons why you watch film on your opponents is to see if they have any tells or things they do, a lot of habits that they do, where you can say, like, okay, if they're blitzing, they're going to be in this coverage, or if they're running the ball, okay, this is the type of splits they have, the offensive linemen have, that kind of thing. You can program into AI to look for on an opponent's film, and I think that could save a lot of hours for your coaches. Now, how much do you trust AI to see what you want to see? I think that's the thing. I think you still need to study film a lot, independent of AI, but I think it could save you a lot of time in terms of looking for tells, tendencies, um, things like that from opponents. And then as a recruiting tool, you can use AI in terms of, all right, this is the type of athlete we're looking for. This is the frame. Go from there. And you can do that at every position, and they'll go through profiles, whether it be 247 or other sites profiles, or if there's all different kinds of databases going back decades in terms of athletes looking to get found, um, putting their name out there, joining companies that help put coaching staffs and the players together. So, I think from a recruiting and a game planning standpoint, it can be a great tool. And that's just scratching the surface. You look at like the Patrick Mahomes walkthrough room with the big virtual reality screen and the little turf that they use to set up in terms of like they'll watch opponents on that screen, how to line up. It doesn't matter if you're in the secondary, offensive line, defensive line, whatever, but you can see certain plays and kind of game plan that way. I don't see why they wouldn't use AI to program some of the opponent's plays and alignments and stuff like that. It just seems like a great time saver. So those are some things there, and yeah, the players can use it like that in the walkthrough room as well. Kind of like what they're going to do. Similar things to how the coaches can use AI. Final question comes from LB Mans, who says, "How does Dylan Spencer look at outside linebacker? He started some his freshman season and was hurt last year. Will he start? No, he will not start. McGuire even was going down the outside linebacker depth chart just here recently in camp or after a practice in camp. And Spencer, first off, it was a bad injury. I've seen him working away from the team. He's in full pads. He's doing some stuff with the team, but he's also still kind of going through the rehab process of building up and the conditioning process of building his body back up into getting into prime football shape. I think he'll be third or fourth string outside linebacker. There's a lot of guys, obviously Romello Height, David Bailey. You got Tillman in there. You got Esters in there. That's just the proposed two deep for those two outside linebacker spots, the defensive end / outside linebacker spots. But there are other guys in the mix. So, Spencer will play some, I think, if he gets up to shape and everything, his body feels right. But he'll be third or fourth string at outside linebacker, which is crazy, right? He would have started last year or been second string, definitely been the two deep. Physical freak of a player, one of those guys who could really set the edge in the run game. That's what I like about him the most is like the dude knows how to stop the running game and set an edge. Saw that in the spring game. Seen that from early in his career. He needs to get a little bit better as a pass rusher, but in terms of an edge setter, run stopper, he's terrific. So already. So I really like Dylan Spencer. I'm rooting for him, and we'll see if how much he plays this year. But again, just like some of the guys I mentioned in the earlier question, like Charles Anderson, Eddie Smith, definitely plans for Dylan Spencer and those guys in the future. Well, those are the questions for this week. I really appreciate those of you who participated. Thank you for watching, and until